Welcome back. It's time for us to read Jenny Delacruz's other book, Fridays with Miss Mélange, Haiti. In this book, there are some words and names that I'm going to mispronounce, and I apologize in advance. Here we go. Let's begin. Fridays with Miss Mélange, Haiti. Written by Jenny Delacruz and illustrations by Danko Herrera. Here we go. This book is dedicated to my husband Joseph and our two sons, Joey and James. Shout out to you all. This is Nia. She loves to learn and explore. Today, she's going to learn an important story in world history. Nia rushed to school because all the sixth graders looked forward to seeing Miss Mélange. She teaches history and current events every Friday. On this Friday, Miss Mélange had placed a napkin with a cube of sugar and a grape on each desk. I wonder what's going on. Me too. Miss Mélange asks, which is sweeter? Leo said, the sugar. Great! Eat the sugar cube first and then the grape, Miss Mélange instructed. Leo whined, ugh, ew, my grape is sour. Ugh. I should have eaten breakfast. Yes, that's right. Now, does anyone know anything about Haiti's past? Miss Mélange said, on its own, the grape is sweet, but it tastes sour compared to the sweetness of the sugar. Today, we're going to explore how this analogy relates to the history of Haiti. Does anyone know what an analogy is? Emma asks, is an analogy like a clever way of comparing two ideas? I use analogies when I write my poetry. Haiti was the first free black republic and the only nation to form after a successful slave revolution, said Jean. Correct, but sadly, it is now one of the most exploited and, as a result, poorest countries in the Western world. In our analogy, the sugar represents the successful revolution. Now, think about what the grape by itself represents and what the sour taste of the grape after eating the sugar represents. Maybe the grape is freedom. Freedom is sweet too, right? I get it. The sourness of the grape represents Haiti's exploitation after gaining freedom. The sour after the sweet. Does anyone know where Haiti is? Miss Mélange asked. Jean answered, in the Caribbean. Yes, it's on the western end of the island of Hispaniola. Jean, your parents are from Haiti, aren't they? Yeah, we speak French and Haitian Creole, Jean said. Haitian Creole is a mix of French, West African, Dano, Spanish, and Portuguese. Wow, all those languages in one? Neat. Miss Mélange said, Christopher Columbus landed on the island in 1492 and named it Hispaniola, or Little Spain. A group of people called the Taino were already living there when Columbus arrived. Yeah, I heard he landed on Puerto Rico, Cuba, and Dominica too. What? Another land Columbus found? Seems like he's the guy that claimed every country. Before Columbus came, the Taino also lived in Cuba, Jamaica, and Puerto Rico. Unfortunately, the Europeans killed about 3 million Taino when they colonized the islands, said Miss Mélange. Isn't that genocide? Leo asked. You are correct, said Miss Mélange. Why did the Europeans kill so many people? What did the Taino do wrong? Miss Mélange responded, the Taino did nothing wrong, Scarlett. They simply had resources other countries wanted. Countless Taños starved to death because they were forced to work in the mines rather than work their farms. The Taño who survived became slaves, just like the Africans of the transatlantic slave trade. Just like my Native American ancestors, they also died from diseases the Europeans brought with them, like the flu and smallpox. Even more died fighting the Europeans. As the Spanish ships traveled home with their valuable cargo of gold, copper, and crops, French pirates seized some of the Spanish vessels and robbed them, Miss Mélange said. Pirates actually exist in real life? From then on, the Spanish and French fought constantly, Miss Mélange continued. Eventually, in 1697, Spain and France signed a treaty to end the fighting. France claimed the western part of Hispaniola and called it Saint-Domingue, while the Spanish claimed the eastern part and called it Santo Domingo. Does anyone know what the sad source of France's wealth was then? Asked Miss Mélange. Was it slavery? Asked Nia. That's terrible. Correct, Nia. France was active in the transatlantic slave trade. Many African slaves died within 3 years of capture due to the cruel plantation system in Saint Domingue. Those that died were simply replaced with more Africans. But once in a while, a rare few purchased their freedom and became known as free blacks or free people of color. How brutal. Slavery is so horrible. Why in the world would France do that? Miss Mélange said. Scarlett, not all of the French agreed with slavery, but for those who did, they saw themselves as different from and better than the Africans and Taño. That's why we must remember there is never any excuse that justifies the mistreatment of others, no matter how different they may be. Now, can anyone tell me who Toussaint Louverture was? Jean said Louverture led the slaves and free people of color when they declared their freedom from slavery, right? Right, Jean. By 1791, the slaves and free blacks finally felt hope when Toussaint Louverture, a former slave, formed an army in a successful revolution against the French. However, it didn't end well for him, Miss Mélange said. Didn't something terrible happen to him? That's right, Jean. In 1802, Napoleon Bonaparte, a French general, tricked and arrested Louverture, who then died in prison. Miss Mélange replied, the slaves and free people of color didn't give up. They rose up again under a new leader, Jean-Jacques Dessalines. Wow! What did the Haitians do after he died? That's awful. The army fought against France, Spain, and England for 12 long years. Dessalines finally declared independence on January 1st, 1804, and changed the country's name to Haiti. Haiti was the original Taño name for the island, and it means land of high mountains, explained Miss Mélange. How in the world did the slaves and free people of color find the courage to fight for so long? Miss Mélange said, that's a great question, Nia. For one, the slaves and the free blacks outnumbered the French on the island. This gave them an advantage. Nia jumped in, but 12 years is a really long time. You're right, Nia. It's about as long as you all have been alive, Miss Mélange agreed. But another reason they had the courage to keep fighting was because even though most of them were slaves, they had held on tightly to their African and Taño roots. They remembered who they were, so they could unite. They came together and kept fighting because their shared identity was so strong. I guess the way we see ourselves and the connection we have to our roots is so powerful, it can get us through anything, even war or revolution. After Haiti became independent, Dessalines wrote the country's first constitution. It was the first in the world to recognize that all people are created equal despite their race. It was revolutionary because it granted freedom to any slave from anywhere in the world that arrived on the shores of Haiti, the teacher explained. Awesome! Finally. I wonder what happened after Haiti became independent. Just then, the bell rang. Miss Mélange said, "Don't worry, we'll continue part 2 of our lesson next week. I want you to get a head start by researching what happened after Haiti gained its independence." Uh-oh, there's homework. Today, Nia learned that our self-identity and connection to our roots are so powerful it can impact not only the course of our lives, but also that of generations to come. And the author Jenny Delacruz left some reflection questions. What part of the story stood out to you? What questions do you still have? And how did you feel about the story and why? Let me know in the comments below. The end. Yes! I really enjoyed the history lesson that we got in Fridays with Miss Mélange Haiti. I even learned some things that I didn't even know about Haiti. And I really enjoyed how she showed us that it's okay to be afraid with this whole pandemic and everything that's happening around us, but as long as we do our part by washing our hands and wearing our masks, everything will be okay. Now, to purchase your copies of Fridays with Miss Mélange Haiti and Mama Can I Sleep With You Tonight, visit cobbstreetpublishing.com. Also, she is a fellow YouTuber, so make sure to subscribe to her channel, Storytime Mélange, for readings of fun and diverse books. Her link is in the description below. I thank you all so much for joining me, but it's time for us to sing some goodbyes. Are you ready? Goodbye, 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 my friends. Goodbye to you. I hope to see you again real soon. Be proud of all your work tonight. Now climb into bed and sleep real tight. On the count of 3, let's say goodnight. 1, 2, 3, good night.